A wild Mustang races across the open plains, unaware of the man who once raised him with devotion and care. 2 decades have passed, and the bond they once shared seems like a distant memory. But destiny has a way of bringing lost souls back together. When their paths cross again, something truly magical happens. An instant spark of recognition that will take your breath away. This touching story will stir your heart and remind you of the unbreakable connection of love and memory. Before we dive into the journey, make sure to subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications to experience more soul-stirring stories like this one. Jacob Alden narrowed his eyes as he gazed at the endless Montana plains stretching before him. The crisp air carried the earthy scent of sun-dried grass and wild sage. Stepping onto the unfamiliar ranch, a wave of nostalgia hit him. It had been years, even decades, since he had last set foot on land like this after selling his family's property and moving on to a new chapter of life. Now at 55, Jacob was back. His hair had turned gray at the edges, and deep lines marked his once youthful face. The reason for his return was simple. Something was missing in his life. A longing he could never quite shake off. A piece of his heart left behind in the past. He approached the ranch owner, a sturdy old cowboy named Hank. "Looking for something specific, mister?" Hank asked, leaning against the wooden fence. Jacob hesitated before answering. "I heard you've got a wild Mustang here, a chestnut stallion, said to be untamed, but with a spirit like no other." Hank nodded slowly. "That'd be Blaze. Found him roaming free years ago. He ain't never let anyone get close. Tried to break him in, but he refuses to be tamed. Smart horse, though. Knows these lands better than any man." Jacob felt his heart skip a beat. Could it really be him? His Mustang, the one he had raised from a foal, the one he had let go 20 years ago when life forced him to walk away. "Can I see him?" Jacob asked, his voice thick with emotion. Hank led him toward a large open field where the Mustang stood alone, his chestnut coat glowing under the golden sunset. He was powerful, his mane flowing like fire in the wind. Jacob took a deep breath and stepped forward, his boots crunching against the dry grass. The Mustang lifted his head, ears flicking forward. His dark eyes studied Jacob, sharp and unreadable. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Jacob swallowed hard. "Blaze?" he whispered. The horse flinched slightly, his muscles tensing. He snorted, pawing at the ground, as if something in that name stirred an old, buried memory. Jacob took another cautious step forward, raising his hand, the way he used to when Blaze was just a colt. "It's me, boy. It's Jacob." Blaze took a hesitant step back, but didn't run. Jacob's heart pounded. He knew that deep inside, the Mustang remembered him. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, worn-out leather strap, the same one Blaze used to chew on as a foal. He held it out, waiting. For what felt like an eternity, Blaze stared at him. Then, ever so slowly, the mighty stallion stepped forward. He lowered his head, sniffing the strap, and suddenly, something shifted. His eyes softened, and a deep, familiar whinny escaped his throat. Jacob's breath caught. "You remember, don't you?" Blaze nuzzled against Jacob's hand, his warm breath sending shivers down his spine. The years had faded, but their bond had not. Tears stung Jacob's eyes as he gently ran his fingers through the Mustang's mane. "I never forgot you, buddy. Not for a second." Behind them, Hank stood in stunned silence. He had seen men try and fail to earn this horse's trust for years. Yet, in a matter of minutes, Jacob had done what no one else could. That night, as the Montana sky filled with stars, Jacob sat beside Blaze, whispering old stories from a time long gone, and for the first time in 20 years, he felt whole again, because some bonds, no matter how much time passes, are never truly broken. Q.